Mr. Rahul Gupta, welcome to the SoapyRao show. Now, the way things work here, man, is I don't do a formal introduction before the podcast starts, because everyone's like, oh, my guest on today's episode. But I'm going to do the
Thank God.
introduction while you're on the call, because that way you can correct me saying, bro, that's wrong, that's wrong. So I'm fact checking as we start the episode. So, guys and girls, ladies and gents, whoever you want to identify as today, I've got a very special gentleman who's right now on the episode with me. He's, well, someone a lot of people trust their money with. He's a very sort of suave gentleman who does a lot of good work in, of course, his career and as a family man, as a husband, as a father. And we recently connected in the space of spreading awareness about visual impairment, disability rights, and generally about the fact that, hey, there's another guy like me out there in the world. So the best way I'm going to introduce him to all of you is just by getting him on and letting him tell his story to you. So Rahul Gupta, welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this episode with me on the SoapyRao show.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. And thank you so much for not doing that formal introduction. I think I've got just tired of, getting introduced in a very, very formal way. And I think then the whole connect gets very limited to some particular age group. I think glad that we are doing this. Thank you for having me here.
No, man, the problem is sometimes you have to write this brief out, which is the sort of bio which they read out, right? And that happens, I'm sure, when you are on these panels and when I'm doing shows. And I remember one lady took, sometimes you're like, do you tell them to just stick to the script? Or, the problem is when they wing it sometimes. This lady went on a tangent saying he can't see from his eyes, but he can see from his heart. And I'm like, lady, take it easy. This is a damn stand-up show, man. What are you trying to do? And they get very carried away, right? Whether it's a thing when it comes to disability.
Yeah.
They're like, we're going to add take some liberties going, this man can see without sight. And I'm like, dude, I don't think I can see much without sight. I don't think anyone can.
For them, it's like a supernatural world that they're living in.
Yeah, right? And they want to feel good about themselves, right? Saying, at least I introduced the blind guy on stage with a nice sort of feel. And that's for them. I mean, and first of all, why are two guys who can't see getting on a Zoom video call?
In fact, that was my question when I said, is it an audio feed? But
no, we are going to do both. And this is mainly, this is the world, right, where we're trying to be normal and have video feed for Insta clips. I mean, this is ridiculous. Like, my wife's like, no, Sandeep, you can use a still image, but get video. I'm like, but it's not comfortable for either Rahul or me, but we're going to do it so we can be present on the social media platforms. But I hope you're okay with it because...
Absolutely.
Okay, lovely.
I keep getting trashed by a lot of people that, you often end up posting only on LinkedIn, which is a very professional media. Why don't you come and put it on Insta? And exactly the point. I'm like, I'm not too comfortable with those pictures. I may have to zoom in video. But, that's what the millennials connect with. Like, okay, we will try.
So that's the strange thing, you have to be there. You have to be everywhere. At the same time, you have to celebrate who you are. And I mean, for me, honestly speaking, I like a certain kind of Twitter feed because it's kind of textual. You can have some funny sort of people out there. But this whole world of memes and emojis, like I'm sure you have software that reads out to you, so it reads out these emojis in a certain way, like shrugging shoulders or face with tears of joy. And it's weird that you have to adapt to it, but I'm sure you want to be there in some way so to be relevant.
But I'll tell you, sorry, Sandeep, if I may interrupt. But interestingly, I'll tell you, I don't even use these screen readers. And again, this might surprise a lot of people when they'll say, "Hey, what is going on?" On one side, you are saying you are visually challenged, you've got limited sight, you're still working on the phone. How do you really do it? I'm like, wait, there is, and that's the beautiful world we live in, where there is full sight on one end. There is complete blindness on the other, and somewhere in the between we are hanging. Now, as I'm talking to more and more people, and glad to you and I got connected, and thanks to another very funny gentleman with whom I got connected, and then in turn he got connected me to you. But and I recall one of the things that he told me when he spoke to me about you. He said, "Hey, there's this funny guy Sandeep in Bangalore. Interestingly, he can't see at I don't know how many feet stage you have. He can't see. I think it's 30." He said he can't see a 30 feet stage, but he can balance a glass of alcohol on his head so well. I'm like, maybe you may want to call it magic, but that's the world we live in. I mean, people get amazed when I walk into the boardrooms when I'm giving out presentations to some very, very sophisticated, tight fist people, and later they get to know, well, I couldn't see even a single line on that presentation, and they're like, how do you do it? Like,
yeah, actually, I want to talk about that first, just to give context. Even I really don't know what the condition you have is. I mean, we connect on certain points that you and I experience being in the sort of fraternity of being visually impaired. But as you said, it's very vast. The conditions, the differences, the nuances of each person is very different from one to another. So what is your condition that you have, and since when have you had it?
Okay, so let me, I will try to keep it as simple for the large audience to understand. So when I was born without vision in one eye, and the other eye was sort of a better eye. I had a far better vision. It's a situation called coloboma, where your eyeball in the most simplistic way is not round, but it's more like a rugby ball. So it's oval. So what really happens, your retina, where your picture gets formed, doesn't get fully developed.
So the retina itself is not fully formed as a result of this misshapen eyeball.
Perfect. So if you think of a wall, so it's a wall where some bricks are missing on day one. Now, at that time, doctors predicted that by the time I get 11 or 12, I'm going to have a situation where the layers of retina, so retina, interestingly, has got some, I don't know, 10 or 11 layers, and they start getting detached, and the vision formation drops. So and it so happened, by the time I was 12, I suddenly realized that my vision dropped to around 4 or 5%. I think one of the things that it's very important here, we often, a lot of people with vision impairment tend to take their situation as is without really thinking, nothing is going to change. I'm going to be like this. Can doctors help? But, had I been probably seeing the doctors on a completely regular basis and just going to the right guy without worrying about, I may have to travel too much, so let me just go to the neighbor. But anyways, maybe we can talk on that in a bit. But
I think you're right. You just settle for, okay, this is my situation, as opposed to owning it, right? I think owning your disability is important.
Sure. So then my vision in this eye dropped fairly low. So prior to this, I could read stack of comic books, but then my vision dropped to a level where suddenly my light perception dropped, and doctors had to stick the retina back. So they used something very funny, they used an oil to put these back. And when they removed the eye, interestingly, I still see some bubbles in my eye.
Are you serious?
That's very funny, because
it's like those guys who tint your car windows, right? And they don't get it right.
In fact, when I was a child, I remember outside these marriages, there used to be this guy selling balloons, and there was this funny video game almost 30 years back where you press a button and there are these rings in water.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, man. It's fucking those things. You keep pressing a button, it's like jets of water shoots these things out.
Absolutely.
I mean, first of all, for context, most people now listening in whatever age group don't even know those balloon walas, right? Like, man, they had those pistols, they had those whistles, and we didn't care who put their mouth on those whistles before we did. We kept blowing away, dude. I mean, not blowing away, just for people with a dirty mind, we blew the whistles. But yeah, right. Like, people asking me, like, you just mentioned this. And they're like, but how did you play that game? Like, my point is, we I think you were born with this. I was diagnosed early with this. I mean, we just did what we could to be normal, right? We just were like, you know what? This is the game's available. We're not going to say, can we have adaptive tech? We didn't have the words like adaptive and everything. Dude, other kids are doing it. Fucking do it, right?
Yeah, it was the brain which was adapting to the situation. And, but just to finish the story, so the doctor stuck it back. My vision got restored to almost 20%. So just to give context, when anybody who goes to an eye check, I could see the top letter written on that chart.
The big one. I think it's an E, right? Yeah.
So as a child, I remember, I used to memorize this so not to give goosebumps to my parents.
It's crazy that they never changed it. They haven't changed it yet, have they?
So there, I think doctors have got a little smarter.
I don't know why we try to cheat the doctor, though,
Yeah.
first of all.
But I think we were just cheating ourselves. So doctor, what
Yeah.
they do, in fact, this time when I went to the doctor said, okay, let me just try to turn the situation upside down. I said, here, doctor, 37 years, I know what all you can do now.
Yeah.
But so that happened. It went fine till 2006 when again, I realized that I developed this situation called glaucoma. Now, glaucoma is a
Okay.
situation where your optic nerve starts to deteriorate over time. And so our eye is again, I don't know why these balloons are coming back and back,
Yeah.
but our eye is like a balloon where there's water inside, something like water. If you put a lot of water in this balloon, the balloon is going to burst.
Yeah.
If you take a lot of water out, the balloon is going to shrink. So you need the right pressure to be inside this water.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice example because, just to explain glaucoma for someone who's never gone for a test or even heard of it, I think this is a really good analogy because I was trying to figure out how you're going to think, because what's happening with the optic nerve here is it's kind of under strain where it's being pulled, right? It's a kind of like that string which is attached to the balloon, which is trying to float away.
Perfect. So
Right.
well put. So then I developed the situation. I think doctors in India were pretty hesitant to do any sort of surgery on me because they said, hey, you've got only, this much vision. If you do anything goes wrong, what'll happen?
Yeah.
Long story short, 2015, I was in London. One of the doctors said, hey, it's such a simple thing. Let me just do it. I don't want you to be on high pressures. I don't want you to be on so many drops forever in life.
Yeah.
I still remember one of the doctors just came up to me and I think he was a Greek. He came, Sandeep, he kept his hand on my hand. He said, boy, make a choice. We can take care. But I could see the confidence in his voice. I said, okay, go ahead and just do what you want.
Yeah.
Now they did that surgery. They patched my eye. They patched the retina. Now I've got this little vein going through my eye, which manages this pressure. Now, rather than those 7 or 8 drops, I'm left with one. And from my vision perspective, how much can I see? So I do have a central vision.
Okay. You have central vision. Okay.
I do my periphery. So what happens in glaucoma?
Sorry, you have central in both eyes?
No. My one eye is fully blind since birth.
Okay, so that one eye. Okay, that's the one with the condition you mentioned. I can't remember the name.
No. So the coloboma is on the left eye. The right eye is fully retinal detached, which means all the layers of the retina are not there. And so
wait, okay, got it. So your right eye is completely gone from retinal detachment. Your left eye has been restored after the surgery in 2015.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Cool.
And and the right eye anything could be done because it was a by birth defect.
Right. So the detachment was too severe for them to do a tint film job with bubbles in it. So you have bubbles only in one eye. Okay.
Yeah. I only have bubbles in one eye.
Okay. No, because you just mentioned something very, very interesting, right? Like a lot of times because of the fear of the unknown, right? Like, oh my God, let me at least hold on to this, as opposed to not knowing what's going to end up as a result of this surgery being a success or failure. I think just that fear of not knowing, fear of the inability to let go of your present situation. Sometimes, of course, it might be for the better because, you might as well say, hey, at least I have what I have. But with what you did, it's mainly because of what that doctor did in that situation, which was inspire confidence. And to just draw a parallel with what you're doing is you inspire confidence to a group of very different people. And that's something which I find baffling because you are, okay, for all practical purposes, blind and more blind than visually impaired because you have only one eye that works, and even within that space you have limited vision, and you technically would be portrayed as someone who a lot of people wouldn't trust in a sort of big position with a lot of responsibility. And most importantly, what I'm coming to is you're doing something that people really are sort of aspiring to do, which is make more money, spend more money, save more money, invest more money. And when it comes to money, people don't fuck around in our world, and especially our country. They're like, dude, it's my money, I've earned it, and I want the most awe-inspiring and the most safe person to handle my money. And sadly, a lot of times they sort of get misled, and then next thing you know, you're ending up with these huge scams where people have just sort of siphoned off trillions and millions of rupees or dollars or whatever the currency is. But you are in a place where you are sort of spearheading and leading a big team of people. So can you just, in very basic terms, because I might get confused as well with the banking terminology, you are this person at this point in a space at an institution heading a big team. So what are you doing in the space of banking and money, so people have context, so we can sort of marry both these things later?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it as simple. In fact, just before that, I'll take a quick step back. You talked about faith. Mm-hmm. I recall when I was completing my master's. That was my final year at my graduation. I'm an economics grad. I went to St. Stephen's, did my bachelor's there. I went to Delhi School. I think two of the most prestigious places. But when I was in my final year, look at how faith is. I was in final year of my graduation, waiting for my results. I go to college, the results are out. I see something funny written there. It says later if necessary. I'm like, what do you mean results are necessary, right? Yeah. And long story short, we figured out what's happening. They said, hey, it's a case of fraud. And interestingly, 2004, this event happened. And our then Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, had just taken oath, and his son-in-law was incidentally my invigilator. I'm like, okay, anything going wrong, I can't be doing cheating in front of the Prime Minister's son-in-law, right? With the SPG standing out. Now, the guy said, hey, I was throughout with you. I didn't see anything wrong. When we went and to the dean's office, we realized somebody had written, a person with visual impairment cannot draw diagrams. Like, okay. And I started laughing. And my dad is like, what's going on here? You can't be laughing at this moment. I'm like, Dad, ask them to put a blindfold on my eye. I mean, think how blind people are in their mind. Even if now you ask me to draw few lines, it's just some crisscross, and if I know, I can do it with my eyes closed. They actually got a handwriting expert. It was some circus going on there.
My God.
And next day I rushed to pick my Delhi school exam, and I'm like, hey, I got passed. And the director then like, are you Rahul Gupta? I'm like, okay. How do you know me? You've not seen me. He said, incidentally, you have taken the numero uno position in the entrance exam. And we were just wondering where this boy is. Like, okay.
Oh, wow, man, that's.
But it's all about faith, and I think
faith, yeah. And faith, and another thing you importantly mention is that people think when the eyes go, that everything else goes with it. But no, you've developed your tactile sense of hearing, sense of smell, and all of that adds in to these things like drawing diagrams. Like, I can't sign to save my life. I can't say, for the life of me, I can't sign now. And people keep calling the bank, we've dishonored this check, dishonored that check. Not like I'm signing checks left, right, and center, but it tends to happen where people associate the most important duties or responsibilities or acts in life with sight. So I feel you're saying this thing with faith. You're in a place now where you are in a position where a lot of trust is placed. So can you talk about what you do and how you got to that place even?
I will. So how I got to this place is again a point of faith. I remember sitting through various placements, and I was interviewed by some of the global corporates. And despite the director's assurance that, I remember being interviewed by one of the top investment banks of that time, and cleared some 12 rounds, but finally got dropped because of vision. And
because of vision?
Because they said,
that's pretty crazy.
And there then came these two gentlemen, one of our then senior leader in HR, God bless him, he is no more in this living world, and a very senior colleague who still continues to be in the organization. So they came forth and they said, what do you care for? I said, I care for a large screen, I care for a scanner. And, it is just that one moment of faith. Now, that, of course, gave me an opportunity to get in. Yes, things were not very easy in the initial days. I remember I got into this institution just for legality. I mean, I will refrain from taking names, but people, as they Google me, they'll know where I work and what I do.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I do. So there is this team. They had full faith in me. They gave me an opportunity. But I remember, and you talked about check as part of my initial training. So I joined the bank along with 46 other management trainees who joined from institutions like I different IMs, FMS, blah, blah, blah. And I got this check in my hand and I'm like, well, I can't match the signatures. What do I do?
Yeah.
And I went back to the doctors, and doctors, Sandeep, 22 years of my life, again, for everything, I keep saying this, for everything, you just need that one person. There's this angel who came, the doctor, and said, I'll give you something like a Gandhinian glass. I call them Gandhinian because they look very cute. These are round shaped, 24 plus power. So these are super magnifiers, and I could read. I could then see, and then I've had various positions of responsibility. There was enough thing on my shoulder. One of the messages that I want to lead back, I think people get complacent when they get in, but I think the real job starts when you open the door, when you get in, and then you keep proving to the organization. I remember, filling up those balance sheets on a tiny 4-inch screen on my phone. I used to wear these Gandhinian glasses, look at the balance sheet, punch the numbers. And I think to instill faith in my clients, you asked me the right question. Why do clients believe that I can manage the money? I think for them, I'll say it was easier because they could see that I'm representing an organization which is large enough. And if that organization is standing strong behind me, and thank God this organization has been with me all these years. I've had phenomenal journeys. In fact, I was in London leading our subsidiary. And so I've not just been in India. I've had a chance to lead an Indian institution in a foreign land. In fact, one of the most mature geographies. Now, what I do, I work with some hot money coming into India, doing so I help people find right capital structures. I'll not complicate it more. It'll just get too boring. But yeah.
No, I actually want to talk about something here, which is, this, just take, and this is the beauty of it, right? It's one aspect which we're talking about here, which is you and I share is the visual impairment, maybe. Maybe other things as well, common interests, etc. But your, number one, your aptitude, your willingness to sort of put in those, crunch in those numbers, get those glasses, which aren't easy to wear. Trust me, I've got the offer of wearing telescopic lenses in school. And first of all, the stigma, second of all, the burden. And it's more than all of that. Take out the disability element. It's your willingness to be a little bit more committed to finding a solution. Like, you can get all of it at your doorstep. You can get all the low visual aids. And of course, it's another issue to figure out what it is and whether we have enough in our country. But you can have all of it at your disposal. But if you don't use it, then you can't blame your disability. And you didn't choose to do that. You just said, screw it, I'm going to take what I need, and you're at this place now. And that's amazing, right? It's not the fact that, yes, of course, I want to talk about the other elements, not your team. Of course, you said they back you, your company backs you, you're at this place right now. And it's mainly because your aptitude for it, and your dedication, and your willingness to put in those hours, put in those days to say, you know what, dude, I'm going to not let the disability be the issue at hand, or something that people look at when they look at me. I want them to look at me and go, wait a second, the 15, 20 other things that we look at, or that comes to our mind when we think of Rahul at this position, which is his dedication, his smart, his intellect, his willingness to sort of give the best solutions, or whatever the capital structures. I don't know exactly if that's the right term, but that's what they look at. And how do you, the question, it's not really a question, but when you walk into a boardroom and you're walking in these high-flying situations with maybe gala dinners or whatever the thing may be across the board and the boardroom, you have these situations where maybe it's a misconception, but in the world of finance, in the world of big money, or in the world of the corporate sort of the higher echelons of corporate power, there is a certain image of a suited, booted, or even if it's a woman or man, a suited, booted, confident person walking into a room. And this is something which you probably have been conditioned to by big Hollywood movies, by big sort of these kind of ads, and the various influences that condition us into believing these things of a certain person, a certain job. So how do you deal with that when you walk into a room, because you already have and people already believe that, okay, Rahul Gupta, the name already comes with confidence, right? That this guy is the top of what he does. There's a team who believes in him. There's a company that believes in him. But when you physically walk in, leave all the other things that people trust you with, is there still a sense of like, who's that guy who can't see?
Yeah, so you, I think, have to find your ways, and I think you just get smarter by time. But of course, one needs to have that go-getter attitude. I keep telling this to people: you got to dream. You got to dream. There is no other way. You have to have that hunger to make it to the next level. Every time you take one notch up, try to aspire to go that level up. But you are right. I still have my nervous moments. For example, when I walk into these gala dinners, clearly I can't see the person who is walking up to me. I've had situations where I miss out on some of the influential people at that time.
And does that affect your business? So just to interject over there, is it like when you mess up, like either a handshake or you don't recognize the most powerful person in the room? Because these are important kind of, I wouldn't call it soft skills, but these are the unsaid networking opportunities that kind of get you to the next level or get your bank more business or whatever it may be, right?
I could be. But again, Sandeep, the way I look at it, maybe out of, if there were 10 such opportunities, I could not, I at least in these scenarios, even if I apply an 80-20 rule and I say, okay, I could not get those 8 people right out of 10, but even if I go and meet those 2, so I have now stopped worrying about, okay, oh God, why did I not get to meet those 10 people? Can I make those 2 people actually my ambassador? Then to reach out to the balance sheet and say, hey, maybe you didn't miss him, or maybe there is a way you would have looked at this guy, but he knows how to give you a solution. And so I think I'm very clear in my head. I don't really want to worry about what I miss. I just want to take care of what I have. I just want to look at what is it, how can I maximize it? But the bottom of everything is you have to have that hunger. Every time you take a step up, I do have those situations where I walk into a boardroom or a meeting room and there's this shiny glass there and I'll bang my head. Now, one choice
that does probably deal a big blow to your. I don't think especially the glass thing, right? The reason I interrupt you here is because it's such a mortal fear, and not physical pain or physical. It's just such a fucking embarrassing thing. However old or confident you are, it's still just that awkward bang. You're like, oh man, it almost like, I mean, it feels like all the things I've done is sort of wound by that incident,
And I'll tell you, Sandeep, to be honest, if anybody at that moment, so, the client can have, or the counterparty, let me just not call it client because it could be internal stakeholders, external stakeholders.
Yeah.
They have few choices. They take you as is, they underestimate you, they overestimate you. I think the power is you got to convert each situation, right? I mean, if you underestimate me, sorry, your problem.
Man, it's not even that on estimation. I'll give you an example of what happened. This is not even with the glass door. Where I've gone to university in Wales, and my mom's friend's old sort of contemporary in Swansea decides to call my mom and I for dinner. And then we sit at the dining table. It's her husband, it's her, it's my mom and I. There's 4 of us, small dinner. And I think she had made like a roast. And I'm like, I don't eat meat at that time. I didn't eat pork, whatever it may be. And then sort of one of these sort of Sainsbury's kind of ready to eat meals, and I wanted to put salt on the vegetables or something, and I didn't know that it wasn't a salt shaker. It was a spoon which you kind of dip into the thing and put. I just overturned the whole salt, and they were completely kind and everything, but I felt so unworthy, going, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you of course have these moments, and I think socially but I think as you grow, you just got to say, okay, maybe as I said, I may get 2 things, 3 things, 5 things wrong, but there are also some of the things that I get right. So and
that's the most important thing. You don't, and that's something which set me back. You kind of look these moments. Why should this even affect me? This happened in 2001. It's 2021, but still, you're right, because if you let these things where you either walk into a glass door, or if someone important at a gala dinner offers their hand and you don't shake it, and these are all things which people are and it's people will always around you, people around you will always be like, oh, that was embarrassing. Not in a cruel way, but they will be there to remind you in some way. But if you let that bog you down, and I love what you just said, is like the 8 things might not have happened, but the 2 things, the 2 situations, the 2 encounters, the 2 clients, the 2 meetings, whatever it may be, and you've chosen. And I think that's important for whoever's listening. And I think this is something which I've sort of adopted to, is, man, you can't constantly be playing to other people's narratives, or you can't keep looking at what went wrong, or what didn't happen in that particular way for the best outcome. But we might not have a success rate of 100%, and who does? But if we let the 90% or the 90% failure, or the 90% that didn't work out let bog us down, or the 90% that doesn't go in our favor to bog us down, then there's no really sort of putting your head above water, right?
Absolutely. And I think the minute you get those 10 things, that 10% right, you know how to magnify it. Now I'll put it to business context. It's very simple. Now, as an organization, I think with 15 years being there, now they know that you vest anything onto his hand, he is going to just magnify it all, because now there has been these series of successful moments.
Yeah.
And besides, I think if all stakeholders, what they care for are our results, right? We live in a very capitalist world.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm the one who could stand in front of the management and give that assurance to all stakeholders that we are aligned to the vision, we are committed in all truthfulness, and the minute you have that honesty and that the honesty, commitment, and passion to do something, people eventually will have no choice but to start believing. And as they see results, I think the other things start to demystify. And don't I get questioned on these things till now? Does this not bother some people? Maybe. But I think if earlier it used to bother 8 people, perhaps out of those 10, it now only bothers 2 people. And do I really have to worry about those? No, I can't. Because
and it's your energy, right? You don't give a shit. I mean, not give a shit, but you don't really care, because the thing is, it's not, you can't break your head about what they are feeling insecure, whether they want to bring you down. And this sort of attitude you're talking about is that I can only do what I can do. It sort of translates to this energy which kind of dispels, or kind of like repels people who try to bring you, like, they can't latch on to anything. I mean, of course they can, but you don't let that bother you,
Absolutely. And I think there is one thing that and again, it's not a phrase for arrogance, but one of the things that I've been constantly narrating to myself is, I am the best. Now, what I mean by that, if somebody else can do something, why can't I? Now, of course, I will not take a car on the road and trash 10 people, because then I'm playing with somebody else. But if somebody, maybe it takes me an extra effort. If somebody can solve for a legal problem by reading through those documents, well, I think I'm an educated guy. I can read. Maybe I may have to spend some extra 3 hours, 4 hours. That's okay, right? And I think now it's become a habit that I recall one of the beautiful phrases said by late President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, that if you win it once and you lose it the second time, people say maybe the first for the fluke. But when you consistently win, or when you derive a pattern in whatever form, even if I'll say you consistently lose, the law of probability will still apply. You may have those 30 losses, but you got to have one success. And that one success, the message, again, you can't worry about people who say how many losses he had. But you want to care about people who say, he at least tried. And I can promise you, I've been now working with able professionals, again, with some of the best, coming out of the best universities. The ability to keep trying is not really there in everybody. To my mind, it is not in more than 2% people who believe they can make a difference.
And that's one thing I'd like to add to is then the community of people with, I wouldn't like to call it, I kind of don't like that idea of community. Well, I like the idea of community. What I mean is bracketing people as the same because they have a disability. That's what I don't want to do, because it's very, very individual. It's very different. It's so many other contexts that sort of come into play. But what I mean by this ability to keep trying, right? That there's a lot of people, especially since we're talking about you and I, who have a visual impairment or disability. It may not be success stories in the conventional sense when people say, oh, disabled people climb mountains and they make amazing art without limbs. Or, of course, there are great artists and the great inspirational stories about people without, certain physical abilities doing great physical feats. But it's this resilience to say, okay, life's thrown this shit at me. I'm not going to just sort of take it every day, because just living every day in itself is trying and trying and trying. And it takes a lot of attempts. And I really, really love that spirit, man.
I completely agree. In fact, yes, you and I keep hearing about a lot of these stories. I think media again has a big role to play. It's about where the spotlight is.
Yeah, I want to talk about them next. Yeah.
No, yeah, where the spotlight is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, probably the kind of work I do doesn't really get to have cameras around it. But does the hard work get paid off? I think yes. It's amazing when I hear from competition. We keep interacting, we keep interviewing candidates. It's nice to hear when people come and tell you, or maybe from very different sources, hey, we heard of you from the relevant community. I mean, banking as an industry, unless you reach that top spot, you tend to maintain that low profile. And I think there was also a reason people do tend to ask me, for the longest time, you've not been doing it. How come? What got you here? I said, 15 years. I now believe, I think people have at least got settled with the idea that this guy knows how to make it. So I don't
he's doing something right.
He's doing something right.
He's not reading it upside down.
So he's not trying to get the spotlight for bloody just the sake of it.
Correct.
I think he knows his script. He has done it enough and more. You can't take him seriously. So I think
man, that's a nice feeling. That your reputation. I mean, sometimes it can be a double-edged sword, but it's kind of nice, and I know completely feel you when you, and it's not, I know exactly, it might sound like arrogance, but you really have put in the time and the effort. And I think with anything, right, like when I feel you shouldn't really be known for one particular thing, like in the sense the disabled guy or the husband, or I mean, all of it goes into making you, right? But it's nice sometimes that your prowess at a certain skill, or maybe your sort of ability, or the fact that you have certain accolades in a certain space, in a certain kind of role, when it precedes you, it does feel good to hear that going, man, Rahul, you're good. We heard that you're really good, really great. But sadly, I wouldn't say sadly, correct me if I'm wrong, but then as a result, you kind of go into this space where they call you for these panel as an expert. Can you talk? You've been on some, right?
I've been on a couple. In fact,
how are those?
They've been amazing. In fact, I was very recently on one of those, and we were talking about media. We were on one of the panels with media, and these guys constantly have been talking about, hey, we don't get stories. We don't get to know a lot about this.
No, one second. This is a panel as a visually impaired person, or as a blind banker?
So okay, I'll touch on both. Okay. So this is the former, which is as somebody visually challenged, and I'm like, okay, hold on. After listening to this for some 15, 20, 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, give it a break. I'm like, okay, you all are talking about media. I said, you want stories? You don't need me to give you a story. I said, just go talk in your organization. You are some 1,000 or 10,000 people organization. Just go and say, we want 15% of the population in our workforce to be specially able. I said, that's it. You will have all stories with you.
Yeah, but that's 150 stories right there.
150 stories right there. Bang on. Hey,
I can do maths, bro.
You're phenomenal with maths.
Any job openings.
Absolutely.
Comedy isn't paying.
Pass me a CV.
I don't have a CV. Please don't make me do that torturous thing. Oh God, it brings back nightmares, man. Like, oh my God, writing that mission statement. What are your hard skills? My hard skills, dude. I can do Microsoft Word. That was my primary thing. My interest in hobby section was like 5 pages.
I know. And I've been on some of these business panel discussions. In fact, I've had a good fortune of, when I was in London, I've been speaker at some of the places like the prestigious Oxford University.
Yeah.
I was a part of the Institute of Directors talking about India-UK relationships and various, yeah. But and at that time, I think what matters is my sheer knowledge and my ability and skill set as a banker. And at that time, my level of visual impairment doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and that's the thing which is so amazing is that people have this, and I brought this up top when I introduced you, is people have this sort of notion, and I don't want to against generalizing people, right? Sadly, I have to use the word people, but there are a certain there's a certain school of thought within, I'd say, a larger percentage than a smaller percentage of people that, you know, and of course times are changing, we'll come to that, but that assign a certain way in which a disabled person, or you know, another kind of person, when as they label it, should live, whether in a certain kind of space, whether it's a certain kind of job, whether it's a certain kind of expression, whether it's a certain kind of thing. They're like, it's almost like this pocket is where you need to be, and don't let your head pop out of that bucket because I'll put it back down. But when you have this thing where you're just like, you know what, I might initially be sort of looked at, okay, here comes the guy who can't see. But once you start knowing and owning your space, whether it's as a banker, or once you kind of get past that thing of the visual impairment, in my case, okay, oh, why is he walked onto stage and holding the mic funnily? But once you get into the third joke, which is killed or has got a huge laugh, I feel people are like, okay, you know what? There's more to this guy than this initial impression. So that's what I want to sort of celebrate in this conversation, is not your inspirational story or your journey, but it's that fact that, you know, look past this particular thing. And, you know, I think once you look past it, you're able to see the good and the bad. And of course, we're all good and bad. We're not just the ideal sort of celebration of hope and inspiration. We all are human beings, man. We fuck up, we talk shit, we drink a few too many drinks once in a while. We have the same problem. So if you humanize... Sorry?
No, I'm saying and we also then get to spoil some of those parties with a lot of
drinking.
But you know, you said it so well. I think the minute you own what you do, see, I don't get elevations, I don't get my variables or my salary because, oh, I'm a visually challenged guy.
Oh, bullshit. That's the first thing that they're going to discount. Like, in the sense, they'll give you provisions.
In fact, I will shoot myself in the head. If anybody ever is going to talk to me, you know, I remember the first thing that I told, you know, the organization while recruiting me, I said, the day, and that's more of a banker's language, but the day you think I'm a liability than an asset, just throw me out of the organization and you got my signature.
And I hate that, feel bad for me. I mean, because there's another thing, and you know, I'm going to come across, and at the risk of sounding like a blind wanker, I had to slip that in. From that time, I'm like, blind banker means blind wanker. But no, the thing is, see, what your story does is that it gives the sense of, okay, come on, guys, get past it, give us a fair chance, and if we fail, then fair enough. But now you have this entire community of people, and I've called them the community of the victim people, right? Like, my problem is bigger than your problem. Come on, can you do something? And they've used the blame game.
Then keep trying. Because
I know they blame establishment. Of course, you know, I don't want at any cost to sound like everyone's problems are easy and hard. And you know, there are so many. The world is full of problems, dude. Everyone has a tough situation here. Just living life on this planet is fucking hard. Whether you want to now the problem is people using the blame thing. Oh, he has privilege, it's easier for him. She has this. I'm like, she's white, it's easy. I'm like, none of that will serve you
they made
in
it
the
so
long
they
run.
can say this. So in their mind, so they will say, oh, you know, you have already made it, so you can say it all.
But it doesn't serve you. At the end of the day, you keep using those things and blaming others, or using these things to point at someone else. You are going to suffer at the end, is what I'm trying to,
in fact,
highlight through your stories, that you can keep pointing, saying, I have it hard, I have it. Who's going to suffer at the end of it? You, right?
But, and Sandeep, bang on, because this is something, in fact, forget specially able. I think this is and one of the reasons when you and I spoke and we said, okay, can we have more positive discussions around this? Because the idea is, yes, you are surrounded by people who have a problem of cribbing. And I was having a chat with some colleagues the other day. I'm like, look at, you know, if people look around and look at the lives of people who crib, And at this time, I'm saying the entire universe, right? Able, especially able, whatever, because I think everybody is disabled in some form. Could be thinking, emotional, whatever. So let's not have those jargons. But the thing is, the people who crib, they get stuck in life. Now you have a choice. The minute you own it, you say, okay, I recall when I was in grade 10th, I think grade 12th. There used to be this subject called business studies, which I never understood. Interestingly, and now I'm a banker talking about corporate structure. But then there was this phenomenal thing around three things: responsibility, accountability, authority. If you demand authority, be responsible and be accountable. You can't pick one of the three and say, I'm not going to worry about the other two.
And what is it again? Responsibility, authority, and accountability.
Yes. So if I seek authority about something, incidentally in Spider-Man they said it right.
With great
authority,
with great power comes.
But you also get accountability along with it.
No, absolutely. Like, I think if you can instill faith, that's faith, and you can inspire confidence. Those are things which attribute to authority, right? Like, if you know your shit, then people are like, okay, this guy knows his shit. But if you know your shit and you're not, and if you're going to flaunt it without being accountable or responsible about how you kind of use that information or that knowledge, it's absolute.
You're a half professional. You're a half individual.
Absolutely. It swings one. And you know, one thing I'm going to add to this, Rahul, is like, you have these now with the internet and with the independence of unconventional success that people can reach as a result of a YouTube channel that goes viral, or content creators. What tends to happen is that there's more things to point at, going, why can't I get a piece of that pie? Simultaneously, messages being driven, going that you are amazing, you can be a billionaire. Look at the story of this man who made it from 0 cents to $1 billion cents. And people are hearing all these things going, why the fuck am I not getting the piece of this pie? And then you have within the community, and you have people going, but we are the disabled community, we are the blind community, we are the gay community, we are the LGBT. I'm saying none of these things are communities, right? They're just some people trying to put these people into these buckets and let them not grow. But honestly, the community, which is the biggest problem right now, are these community of cribbers. Every group of people has them. And they just sit there, feel bad for themselves, going, oh, because of that situation, we are here. We can't get out of it. And that message is driving. And whether it's right, left, whether it's disabled, non-disabled, whether it's men, women, this community of cribbers have people from all these groups, from all these kind of people. And they are kind of like holding back the progress of people at large.
In fact, Sandeep, I think at the end of this audio, if people can take one message away, that it's important to celebrate and not crib, while both have a C there. Which again,
that's the episode's title. I think it sounds good. I was just thinking about it. I'm like, Rahul, thanks for giving me that, man. You've done more than being a guest. You give me an episode title as well. Celebrate, not crib. Yeah, because I don't want to, because you're visually impaired on this episode, I don't want to be like visually impaired banker. And that's typically...
Please. I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to come to Bangalore and shoot you for that.
I hope that's soon, by the way, I think, coming next week.
I'm planning to.
Because you're different, I'm different, bro. Simple as that. You are Rahul, I'm Sandeep. We have a bunch of stuff that goes into making us. I can't do what you do, and you probably can do what I do, but we do it because we love doing what we do. And that's such a confusing statement. I just got confused with what I just said. But yeah.
Yeah, I think, see, if we are able to pass this message of celebrating, don't we have a problem? I'm sure you and I have got a bunch of problems.
And my eyesight is the least of it.
I completely agree. If I put a towel on the bed, and my wet towel on the bed, I think that's a bigger problem for me, because
and we have anger issues, we have other issues. Some of it might sprout from this, but as a fundamental difference, you as a human being are different from me as a human being. Now, we might connect on a couple of points, which are things that we share, as opposed to because of the time we live in, the country we live in, the sort of gender we share. We have certain common points, but man, that is so insignificant compared to the differences that make us unique,
And I think one needs to realize, in fact, very interestingly, I recently got a coach or a leadership coach to talk to me, because the point for me was, okay, what next, right? What next I need to do, and as a professional. And one of the things, this amazing coach got me to realize, you got to love your situation, whether it's your personal situation or your professional situation.
Yeah,
I had my own share of problems. I did I did open it up completely. And one of the things she told me, I think at times you just need that one person. In fact, I'll be very happy if at the end of that, I don't know, you've got some phenomenal number of followers. If even one at the end of it could write back and say, hey, today I love my situation. I love where I am.
Yeah.
I think that's where we would have done it. And this then has to encompass everybody. You have a choice, feel sorry. You have a choice, just feel happy. Just go and say, I will do it. I can do it. People ask me, what do you care to do? I said, I want to be a brand. And they said, brand in what sense? I said, I am known not for my vision. I am known for being a passionate professional. I want to be known for that. From the vision part of it, if I'm able to light more candles, if you and I through these mediums can light more candles, I think our job is done. Very funnily, I had somebody who walked up to me and said, hey, there is somebody especially abled in the finance world who is so celebrated. Why, I looked into the person and said, thank you for being concerned. I'm like, okay, now how can you help me in this? Now, they're all kind of bunch of people. I'm like, listen, I'm very happy in what I'm doing. God bless.
Oh, but man, speaking of people like that, can I just tell you this one thing? It really bothers me. After a show, this girl and her brother come backstage and she's like, I really liked your show. Just wanted to say hi. And the guy, and this is something which I don't know how I caught, but I think I was looking at her. So in the peripheral sort of my vision, he's like, oh, are you really visually impaired? And he sort of waves his hand in front of my eyes. And I was like, you piece of shit. Like, sometimes empathy is important, bro, but this guy just wanted to punch in the face. And the guy next to me, he's like, you asshole, how could you do, like, how, I mean, it's not about inconsistent. I mean, I wish, and sometimes I don't care if someone hits me going, oh shit, you hit a blind guy. Good. If I deserve it, I deserve it. But I just wish I could catch that in time and nail this guy on the nose, because you know what? Sometimes all these things like awareness and empathy, all these words, these guys don't deserve it. They deserve a slap across the fucking face, man. I felt so angry, and it just makes my blood boil going back, going, you insensitive piece of shit. Like, you're the one who'll pull a guy's leg to see if he's paralyzed, right? That's how pieces of shit like you have made the world a worse place, It just made me so angry.
But interestingly, as a banker, if anybody will reach out to me, like, oh, really? Do you really have that situation? And you could still do it. I'm like, okay, did I leave you in awe? Enjoy that moment and thank you. Bye.
Yeah, I think that's a mic drop moment, right? You're just good night, God bless.
Good night, God bless. Thank you. Enjoy.
I'm out of here. Like, that's and that's the worst part. You walk away from the podium and you don't know where the steps are, man. I think that's the thing which gets me sometimes. Like, I do a mic drop and I'm like, oh shit, where is stage left?
But these are all the moments. Let's hope we are able to spread what we are trying to.
No, I just, as I said, I'm not the cheesy type. I'm not going to take like the snippets of this podcast which are like awe-inspiring. I just generally think overall as a unit, sorry, it's my dog going off. Overall as a unit, as Rahul Gupta, I think you're just a fantastic person to talk. Thank you, brother. No, I specifically don't want, these things to be, where you pat me on the back. But I genuinely think that your attitude, more than anything, I mean, of course, everything else is an amazing celebration of what you've put into your life, your hard work, your focus, your dedication, your even to find what you want to do and have this family and the situation where you're in. I think all that is a celebration in itself, but truly as an entire unit, man, you're awesome to talk to. You're awesome to learn from, and you're just fun to be around. And I look forward. This is basically where we start winding up. But I look forward to that drink which we're going to have in Bangalore.
Well, absolutely, and not one many, right?
Of course, which I'm so glad to hear, because we as blind people are not supposed to get drunk and make fools of ourselves. But who said that? No one.
No one.
Rahul, how can they follow you, and where are you on Instagram, or you on LinkedIn? Because I'm not going to do show notes and all that.
One of the interesting things, Sandeep, which we should leave audience with here, I'm trying to blog on this platform called The Vision Beyond Sight. .wordpress.com, and I'm trying to put together some fun elements. I think I've just had one blog out, but I'll be writing more.
Fantastic. So that's The Vision Beyond Sight at wordpress.com. .wordpress. Of course, it's not an email address. Yeah. Okay. .wordpress. So Vision Beyond Sight, and they can Rahul Gupta on LinkedIn. Congratulations on everything, and thank you. Do reach out to Rahul, guys, if you if you want to hear his story in detail, or you want to just say hi or do anything with him, not do anything with him, that you need to check with his wife. But if you want to say hi and get to know more about Rahul, and if you guys want to sign him up or sign up his bank for any of your accounts, because of course, my listeners are all HNIs, high net worth individuals. But do reach out to Rahul. He's a great guy. And as you've heard,
we love business, guys. Please do.
He loves business. He loves money. And he's a good guy. He's a good guy to know. And he's a good guy for doing this. Rahul, appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.